Well, good evening and welcome. So lovely to see you all here this evening to this Providence Road debate. My name's Helen Rice. I'm here to chair and facilitate the evening's happening. I'm planning to say very little, you'll be very glad to know, as I know very little about homelessness. What I do know is that it's a terrible plight on this country, and what I do know is advice centres like ours, like the one I run in Elephant and Castle, we have people turning up at our doors when we've lost their housing appeal who have become made homeless. I know how difficult it is to get them somewhere to be supported. And all the wonderful panel members today make a huge impact on the sector with all the things they do to support the people of Great Britain. So I'm really grateful for them all being here this evening and contributing. But all of you need to contribute as well, because we don't want to hear presentation after presentation. That's not what we're here to do today. So we're really hoping to engage with you all and have you take part in the conversation, the debate this evening. We'd like also to just say there will not be a fire alarm this evening. And if there is a fire alarm this evening, it's because there is a fire, okay? And some burly security guards will come in and escort you out of the store. You don't have to worry about that. People will look after you if that happens, but just to let you know, just in case. And at the end of the evening, we will have refreshments. You'll be glad to know, the important part of the networking of the evening. And we're very, very grateful to Freshfields, Brookhouse and Derringer for providing the space and the refreshments for us all this evening. So I'm very, very grateful for them doing that. So thank you very much. And this debate is one of a series of events to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Providence Row. So that's a huge achievement for a charity in today's funding climate who's managed to survive over such a long period of time to do such important work. And I was wondering about the question, is homelessness a state of mind? If we'd asked that 150 years ago, whether there would have been a different debate than what we're having now. I hope so, but it would be interesting to see how that might unfold. As I said, we do want it to be interactive, so do whiz your hand in the air. I'm going to try and get everyone in the room heard, and our panel can fight over answering your questions, and depending on how eager they look will depend who gets allowed to respond. And if no one puts their hand up, I'll just pick meanly on someone. I think that's a fair way to go. So to start us off this evening, I'm not going to give you the full wonderful CVs of our panellists, but just ask them to tell you about their position, why they think their position is what it is, and then we're going to whiz along the line so that you can then think about questions to pose to them. So I'm going to ask Fiona Humphreys, the CEO of Providence Row Housing Association, to start us off, as she's closest to this end.
And possibly controversially, I'm going to say no, I don't believe that homelessness is in the mind. I think that the reason why many people remain on the streets or return to the streets many times is because of the years of damage that have been done to them and the amount of time it takes to recover from that. I think that a lot of responsibility starts with people who affect children, and that many families fail to provide emotional resilience and life skills for children. And because of this, many of the homeless people that I have worked with have, for many years, struggled with trying to develop positive social relationships, ways of surviving. I also think that individuals, when they do start to reunite with communities, often meet with hostility. I think that there isn't often care in the community. I think there are lots of examples of people being as far as harassed, but also just not welcomed, and lots of examples of people being preyed upon because they're known to be vulnerable. And therefore I don't believe that homelessness is in the mind.
Thank you. Can I now pass to Jeremy Swain, who's CEO of Thames Reach, to see whether you have an opposing position or a similar one.
Well, now I know that most people are going to be taking this particular line, that it's not a state of mind. I wish that now that I was going the other way, because you're going to be on your own, John, aren't you, on this? But that's okay, because we can bully and intimidate you, can't we? And enjoy ourselves that way. I also wanted to point out that I was sending this my stance over to the picker quite late at night, and I seem to have said that all the audience are stupid in this. And I just wanted to say that how much respect I have for you all, and immediately withdraw that. Seriously, I think the issue, there's two experiences I've had recently. One was going over to Calgary in Canada to see the problems they have over there. And there's far more people sleeping rough in Calgary with a population of 1 million than there is in London at the moment. And I think in America, they've taken the line that, yes, homelessness is essentially a state of mind. Pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, get your life back in order, slap, everything will be okay as long as you're positive. And in order to help you do that, we'll build these big shelters. And indeed, in Calgary, they've done that in a very big way. Biggest shelter is a Salvation Army shelter with 1,200 people. Anybody from the Salvation Army here today? Okay, I'm glad that I'm not insulting everybody. The Salvation Army, the shelters are enormous. Now, what they've now done in Calgary is to think, hey, it's more than that. It's about settled accommodation. And I think that is an illustration of how it certainly isn't a state of mind. It's to do with other things. It's to do with good quality accommodation and recognising, of course, that people don't come from the same position. The other experience I have is of the journalists ringing me incessantly for a story about somebody sleeping rough on the street who's a banker, ideally, who's lost their home and come onto the street. And the reason we can't find them that story is because the people on the street have not got that background. They're people who have had very poor upbringings in terms of the parenting they've received. They're people who have had early brushes with the criminal justice system. Their literacy skills are very, very poor. They've then moved into drug and alcohol misuse quite early on. In other words, they're people who haven't had the right start in life. And very, very clearly, this is not a matter of them being in the right state of mind. It's a matter of them battling against enormous deprivation and inequality. So for me, this is actually quite a dangerous stance to take to say it's a state of mind, because it really isn't that simple. Do people on the streets have mental health problems? Of course they do, about 35%. We know that. But I would urge you to resist this particular statement and in this debate, make sure you side with the angels and against the devil. Is that divisive enough for you? Right.
Thank you very much. So over to Jo Ansell, who's Chief Executive of Providence Road Charity. And I'd ask you to state your position, Jo.
Okay, I think I'm a bit more with John, I'm afraid.
Oh, good.
And that's because it's about how you interpret the question. Because I do think that a lot of this is about a person's psychology, is about a person's state of mind. But that doesn't mean that it's imaginary or that it's easily sorted out. I was thinking about the bit of homelessness that's called home and the dictionary definition around what that means. And it's a place where something flourishes. It's a sense of belonging, a sense of community, security and roots. And it seems to me that that implies a relationship. And picking up on the point that Fiona made about people being welcome, about a place where people can flourish being provided, and whether an enormous hostel is that sort of a place, whether a community or is welcoming and creates that sort of place with somebody, or whether they've had that in their background. But I think it also is about a relationship, and it's about the person being able to engage in that relationship, in that home, and make a home and feel at home. And I think there are barriers to many of our clients being able to feel at home somewhere, wherever that place is provided. And it could be about mental health, it could be about a lack of trust, a lack of resources, damage and trauma in the past. And so I think, maybe I sit somewhere between the two, but I think there is definitely something around a person's ability to be able to engage and their state of mind, to be able to feel and be at home.
Thank you very much. And over now to Mick Clark, who's Chief Executive of The Passage.
Thanks. I found this when I looked at the motion. I found it quite difficult, really, because you can argue it either way, really. But like I can hear my wife saying, just make a decision. So I thought I would. And so I went for no. But the reason being is I don't like these type of statements, because it's a bit like you start putting people in boxes, and things like can be a state of mind soon leads to it's all in the mind, and then before we know it, we're clearing people from the streets. And I'm sure